Hello, everybody. I am Weizhao Tang, a PhD student at Carnegie Mellon University. I am very delighted today to present our paper on behalf of my collaborators, Weina, Julia, and Si Wong. The title of our paper is Privacy Utility Trade-offs in Routing Cryptocurrency over Payment Channel Networks. Speaking of cryptocurrency, I have to mention the ingenious design that makes it so popular today, and that is blockchain. Let's start with how Alice pays Bob 1 Bitcoin on the blockchain. She has to do this in 4 steps. Step 1, she creates and signs the transaction. Step 2, a miner assembles the new block containing her transaction. Step 3, once the block is mined, the miner appends the block to the end of the blockchain. Step 4, Alice waits for confirmation of the block. Typically, people treat a block as confirmed once it's 6 blocks deep in the blockchain, and this takes about an hour. This slow confirmation is known as one of the shortcomings of blockchain. Is there a way to make transactions fast? In fact, there is. Instead of committing everything on the blockchain, people escrow the funds ahead of time and open a payment channel. Let's take Alice and Bob for example. First, they open the payment channel by making an escrowing transaction on the blockchain. It is the green box on the diagram. Starting with this moment, we use an edge between Alice and Bob to represent the channel state. Second, anytime they want to make a transaction, they send money back and forth by only updating the channel weights without committing to the blockchain. This is why transactions on payment channels can be very fast. Finally, when they are done paying each other, maybe after a few days, they commit their last state on payment channel to the blockchain and reclaim their funds. Multiple users can construct a graph of payment channels, which is called a payment channel network, a PCN. This is a small PCN of 5 users, including Alice, Bob, and Charlie. We already know Alice and Bob can transact with each other via channel AB. But what about Alice and Charlie who do not share a channel? The answer is Alice can find a path towards Charlie and transfer money on every hop. Here, Alice chooses the green path. She sends 1 Bitcoin to Bob, and Bob sends 1 Bitcoin to Charlie. As a result, they update the balances of channels AB and BC. PCNs accelerate transactions not only in theory, but also in the industry, which is very exciting. Current deployed PCNs, including the Lightning Network for Bitcoin and the Raiden Network for Ethereum. As commented by Gregory, Lightning offers a more compelling scaling solution that can really position the Bitcoin ecosystem for large-scale Bitcoin retail use. Apparently, there is a belief that PCN will be a good tool to scale up cryptocurrency systems. Although it seems promising, people still have concerns about PCNs, especially about privacy. As for us, we're particularly concerned about transactor anonymity. So we call it good privacy if protocol following nodes cannot link the two endpoints of a transaction by simply observing the network. Showing the balances will violate our privacy standards because after you make a transaction, everyone sees a path of updated balances and knows you just paid someone. So it is necessary to keep the balances secret. Here, Alice is a PCN user. For privacy, she doesn't know the balances of any channel except hers. But inevitably, she knows the sum of the balances because these can be found on the public blockchain. They're written in the middle of each channel. Now let's look at how Alice would find a route on such a privacy-preserved PCN. Her goal is to send 5 Bitcoin to Charlie. She chooses the shortest green path. Now she needs to check if every hop has enough balance to send. The first hop is her sending 5 Bitcoin to Bob. She has enough money, so this hop is okay. The next hop is Bob sending 5 Bitcoin to Charlie. Bob checks his remaining balance. Unfortunately, Bob did not have enough money to give Charlie, so he has to report this bad news back to Alice. This procedure is guess and check routing. We already know it has good privacy, and we can see its bad utility from Alice's failure. Had Alice known all the true balances, she would have picked the blue route and succeed with only one trial. This is the full knowledge routing with good utility but bad privacy. Based on this, we raise a core question. Can we trade off privacy for utility by revealing noisy channel balances? We take two approaches to answer this question. First, we derive fundamental limits for privacy utility trade-offs in PCNs. Second, we design schemes whose trade-offs achieve the limits. Let me introduce our setup of the PCN model with this example. The small golden numbers are the true balances. Instead of nothing at all, everyone sees public balances which just replace the question marks. For instance, on the AB channel, Alice and Bob claim to the public that they have funds of 7 against 6, while they actually have 9 against 4. Now Alice still wants to send 5 Bitcoin to Charlie. She tries to find the path P with enough public balances except on her own. Her transaction succeeds if and only if she can both find such P and send money through it. In this example, she found the green path P. From the pink circled numbers, we can tell it satisfies the first condition. And by the blue circled numbers, the second condition is also met, so this time she will succeed. After confirmation, all the true balances on P are updated as on the diagram, but the public balances of only a subset of edges Q are updated truthfully, while the other public balances are not updated at all. In this example, Q is a set containing hops 1 and 3. The balances on these hops are revealed truthfully, but those on the second hop remain as they were. In general, Q is randomly sampled by a noise mechanism D. Now the question is, can we design a noise mechanism with a good privacy utility trade-off? Before answering that question, we should make clear what privacy and utility precisely means. Let's start with utility. It is defined as the minimum probability that public balances are on an edge are truthfully updated. This metric lower bounds the probability that any observed public balance is truthful. In other words, it represents how confident you are to trust a public balance. We chose this metric so that the trade-off analysis is tractable, considering that people may also be concerned about more natural metrics. We will also talk about one of them later. Now let's look at the second metric, privacy. In our assumption, the adversary does not have access to the true balances. Instead, it monitors all the public balances while obeying the protocol. Based on its observation, it guesses one node and wins if that node is either the sender or the receiver. Our privacy is formally defined as a minimax probability that the adversary loses. More frankly, It is the probability that the most powerful adversary fails in its least accurate guess. Now that the metrics are defined, we specify the optimal target trade-off. In the presence of a baseline adversary that always guesses a node uniformly at random, our highest privacy is 1 minus 2 over n because the adversary can guess the endpoints right with probability 2 over n. We want to achieve a trade-off like a blue curve where privacy is perfect whenever utility is less than 1. However, our first main result shows this is no more than a dream in some cases. Our theorem suggests that as long as everyone always takes the shortest routes, the trade-off curves must stay in the purple area, regardless of graph topology. The only condition in this theorem is shortest path routing, which is a weak assumption because shortest paths are favored for at least 2 reasons. First, a shortest path is easy to get from BFS if the topology is known. Second, the sender should pay a routing fee in practice to each intermediate router. So generally, shorter routes cost less. It might be confusing that the adversary becomes so powerful when users only specify the routing scheme. Usually, the adversary observes a few connected segments of edges whose public balances are updated. Whenever user takes shortest paths, there exists a unique way to connect these segments. So the adversary could narrow down the choices of the sender and the receiver. We can get a sense of it from this example. On this grid, you can easily picture the only way to connect these segments so that the nodes in the middle, B, C, D, E, and F, are excluded from the choice list. After understanding the bound, we want to know what noise mechanism can achieve it, and we found this all or nothing noise. It is very simple. It either reveals the entire path or with probability U of D or reveal nothing at all. It is a special noise because its trade-off is always diagonal, regardless of the routing algorithm. And this is why it becomes handy when we want to adjust privacy by adjusting utility. Now, let's try to break the diagonal bound. First of all, we should absolutely not use shortest path routing anymore. Instead, we focus on fixed length routing on complete graphs. Besides that, we also need a different noise. This is the IID noise. It flips an independent coin for each individual edge to decide whether to update or not. Now let's look at the performance of our new system. We have this analytical lower bound of trade-offs under the IID noise. It is demonstrated by this figure. We plot these curves of lower bounds on different L values. We proved if n and L go to infinity, the curve converges to the perfect trade-off we wanted. However, this proposal has several downsides. First, there are too many channels. When the PCN is a complete graph, there won't be much need for routing. Second, it takes exponential time in the worst case to find a route of given length. In spite of these drawbacks, our analysis still proved there is a chance to break the diagonal bound. So with further exploration, we might be able to design a more realistic system that enjoys perfect privacy utility trade-off. After discussing privacy utility trade-offs, we focus on trade-offs between privacy and success rate, which is a more natural metric. It is defined as the expected proportion of successful transactions in a sequence. We also return to the all or nothing noise and shortest path routing so that privacy can be configured by setting a utility level of the noise. We chose 5 different topologies as large as the Lightning Network snapshot. Then, after applying the noise at each privacy level, we ran flows of 100,000 transactions on each of them and collected success rates. This figure shows the privacy success rate trade-offs on each PCN topology. We have two main observations from this figure. First, sacrificing privacy typically brings less gains in success rate. For instance, on the green LND curve, if you decrease privacy from 0.8 to 0.4, you get an increase by only about 0.1 in success rate. Second, even worse, such sacrifice can hurt success rate if privacy is already high. This observation corresponds to the right tip of the blue curve, which is a little bit non-monotonic. It is not very significant when the network is large and the flow size is finite, but a system designer should definitely be aware of it. In the end, I want to summarize our work with a few takeaway messages. First, under shortest path routing, no scheme achieves a privacy utility trade-off better than the diagonal. Second, if privacy success rate curves, the privacy success rate trade-off curves do not encourage trading off a little privacy for utility. So it might be better to work at either extreme case. Finally, the diagonal bound can be broken by certain schemes whose feasibility requires further discussion. In the end, I would also like to mention that these ideas are being explored by current Lightning Network implementations, such as C-Lightning by Blockstream. This paper has formally confirmed that their efforts of avoiding shortest paths are going on the right track. If you have any questions, please be our guest and ask us via the Slack channel. Thank you for listening to this talk, and we hope you stay safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thanks again.